Yo, let me ask you something before we even start. What if I told you the real threat to Caitlin Clark's career right now isn't a hard foul, isn't a rival player, isn't even bad officiating? It's sitting right there on her own bench? Sounds crazy, right? But stick with me for the next few minutes, because by the time this video is done, you are going to see this entire Sophie Cunningham situation in a completely different light. Let's get into it. Right now, this question is everywhere. It's on every podcast, every comment section, every sports debate show. Is Sophie Cunningham becoming a problem for Caitlin Clark? And honestly, before we answer that, we need to rewind the tape a little bit, because the way this whole relationship started is the exact opposite of what people are saying now. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, she walked into chaos. She was getting hunted, hard screens, cheap shots, players lining up just to get a viral moment off knocking down the most famous rookie in the history of women's basketball. Connecticut Sun players, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles, Dejounte Carrington. She was getting tested every single night. And for a while, it looked like nobody on that Indiana roster was willing to step up and protect her. And then Sophie Cunningham happened. Out of nowhere, this blonde, fiery, no-nonsense veteran decides enough is enough. And she goes out there, and she puts a body on somebody. She stood up for Caitlin when nobody else did, and fans noticed immediately. Within 24 hours, she gained over 1 million new followers. People started calling her the Blonde Bomber. She wasn't just a role player anymore. She became a folk hero overnight, because in a league where everyone was piling on Caitlin Clark, Sophie was the one person willing to fight fire with fire. Now here's where the story gets interesting, because Sophie didn't stop there. She kept riding that wave. UFC ring appearances, national commercial deals with Arby's, a signature Adidas shoe that sold out almost instantly, appearances all over mainstream television. For someone averaging around 5 points a game on the court, she became one of the biggest off-court personalities in the entire league. And look, that's not a bad thing by itself. Athletes are allowed to build a brand. Athletes are allowed to have a personality. That's part of what makes sports entertaining. But somewhere along the way, Sophie's off-court presence shifted from highlight reels and brand deals into something a lot more controversial: her public stance on transgender athletes competing in women's sports. She's made it clear multiple times that her position is specifically about athletes who were born male competing in female categories. She has repeatedly clarified she is not saying transgender people don't belong. She is not attacking anyone's identity. Her stance is about competitive fairness in her eyes. And here's the thing people conveniently leave out. Polling actually shows a significant majority of the general public agrees with that general sentiment. This isn't some fringe take she invented out of nowhere. But because she is now a mainstream celebrity with millions of eyes on her, every time she brings this topic up, it doesn't stay contained to her. It splashes onto her teammate. Reporters run straight to Caitlin Clark afterward. Podcasters bring it up on air. Fans flood comment sections demanding Caitlin pick a side. And every single time, Caitlin gives the same answer. I'm here to play basketball. That's not something I'm going to comment on. She has tried, over and over, to stay completely out of it. But staying silent doesn't actually protect her from the noise, because the internet doesn't care about nuance. It just wants a headline, and Caitlin's name sells more headlines than anyone else's in that league right now. That's exactly the argument sports commentators have started making. Their comparison is to men's sports locker rooms, where they always say you can survive having one wildcard personality on a roster, but two becomes combustible. Their logic here is that none of this current controversy is coming from Caitlin herself, but she's still the one who has to answer for it in every press conference, every interview, every soundbite, simply because she happens to share a jersey with Sophie. Now, before you nod along and agree with that completely, let's push back on it, because there's a very reasonable counter-argument here too. A lot of people are saying Sophie Cunningham is exactly the kind of teammate a superstar needs. She's fiery, she's loyal, she plays with an edge, and she's not afraid to take a hit, literally and figuratively, for the people around her. Her personal opinions on a hot-button social issue don't automatically make her toxic to the team, especially when a huge chunk of the public shares those exact opinions. So is she really the distraction people are making her out to be? Or is this just what happens anytime an athlete becomes famous enough that their personal life gets treated like it's team business? Now here's where this entire debate stopped being just an internet argument and became something that actually bled onto the court. Indiana was playing Minnesota, and during that game Sophie takes an absolutely brutal elbow straight to the face from a Minnesota forward. We're talking about a hit so violent that commentators were shocked her head was even still attached afterward. Now common sense says that should be an obvious foul on the Minnesota player. Instead, the referees call the foul on Sophie. Not only that, the officials actually go to video review, which should have been the moment where common sense prevails and they fix the call. Instead, they take an unbelievably long time reviewing the footage, and at the end of it, they uphold the original ruling. Sophie is standing there, looking up at the officials completely stunned, mouthing something along the lines of "Are you kidding me right now?" And on top of that, her own head coach doesn't even step in to advocate for her, doesn't argue the call, doesn't protect his player after she just got drilled in the face on national television. Indiana ends up losing that game to Minnesota, and the frustration around the officiating in that moment becomes its own separate storyline. That incident reignited a much bigger conversation that's been simmering in the WNBA for a while now: the consistency, or lack thereof, in officiating across the league. Fans and analysts have been vocal for months about blown calls, inconsistent whistle standards, and a lack of accountability from referees. And this Sophie Cunningham elbow incident became the latest example fans pointed to as proof that something needs to change. But the story doesn't stop there, because after that game, the head coach on the Minnesota side publicly commented on Sophie, essentially accusing her of pushing a narrative that transgender athletes are the biggest problem in sports today. The only issue with that accusation, Sophie never actually said that. What she has said, repeatedly and consistently, is a much narrower and more specific position about athletes born male competing in female categories. That distinction matters a lot, but distinctions rarely survive once a story starts trending online. It gets flattened into the loudest, most inflammatory version possible, and that's exactly what happened here. So now you've got a rival head coach publicly pushing back against Sophie before a nationally televised game, wearing a statement shirt in the lead up to the matchup, making public comments about wanting more leadership from players and coaches around this issue. And even more interesting, several people around the league have pointed out that this topic isn't even something that's actively playing out on the competitive side of the WNBA right now. It's become a fight that's happening entirely through interviews, pre-game comments, and social media threads rather than anything actually unfolding on the hardwood. So let's bring this all the way back around to the original question. Is Sophie Cunningham bad for Caitlin Clark? Here's my honest, unfiltered take on this whole situation. I don't think Sophie is the problem. I think she's exactly the kind of role player every superstar dreams of having next to them. Someone who's got her back physically, someone who plays with grit and fire, someone who isn't scared to be disliked if it means protecting her teammate. The real issue here isn't Sophie's personality, and it isn't even really her opinions. The real issue is how poorly the league, the media, and the officiating crews are handling the fallout around these two players. Sophie takes an elbow to the face and somehow gets whistled for the foul. A rival coach makes a public accusation that doesn't actually line up with anything Sophie has said on record. And through all of that noise, Caitlin Clark, who has said nothing controversial at all, keeps getting dragged into a debate she has made abundantly clear she wants no part of. At the end of the day, I don't think this is really a story about one teammate dragging down another. I think this is a story about a league that keeps stepping on its own rake. Bad officiating decisions. Coaches making public comments that don't match reality. A media ecosystem that thrives off turning every offhand remark into a full-blown scandal because outrage generates more clicks than basketball highlights ever will. Sophie Cunningham isn't the villain in this story. If anything, she's just the most visible symptom of a much bigger set of problems that have been building inside women's basketball for a while now. So here's what I actually want to know from you watching this right now. Do you think Sophie Cunningham has become a genuine distraction for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever? Or do you think she's exactly the kind of ride-or-die teammate every winning team needs, regardless of what she says off the court? Drop your honest take down in the comments, because this conversation is nowhere near finished, and I guarantee it's going to keep coming up as the season rolls on. If this breakdown gave you a new perspective, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one, and I will see you in the next video.